you have your mic on? Okay. If your mic,
Didn't have that. Sorry.
no problem. And then, oh, okay.
So Francesca, do you want to make the roll call?
Yes. Now. Okay. Commissioner Champion. Commissioner Kimsey. Commissioner Sovereign.
Here.
Commissioner Motowski.
Present.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
And Chair Thomas.
Here.
And then just one moment, and we do have our Commissioner Evans, who is going to be joining us as well on video under the Just Cause. And Bob Evans.
I'm present. However, I have a bit of a disability, and I'm supposed to tell you that there is only one person in the room with me, and she is well over 18.
Thank you. So information on participating in today's meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. We ask attendees to keep phones and devices muted, and thank you for participating in your city government.
So we have a consent of the agenda. Anybody want to make that motion, or anybody has any?
I move that we accept the agenda,
All right.
The minutes, you mean?
I'm sorry.
the minute.
Yeah. Yes, that's, so our approval of the minutes. Second. Okay, minutes are approved.
And then we do need to do a verbal roll call since Commissioner Evans is participating via Zoom. So Commissioner Evans,
Approve.
okay. Commissioner Kimsey, you approve of it? Okay. And then Commissioner Champion, okay. And Chair Thomas,
Yes.
okay. Commissioner Sovereign,
Yes.
Commissioner Watowski,
Well, I have to abstain because I was not present, but I was just curious, under staff present, it says retired annuitant.
that's Dennis
With-
Copeland.
I'm
It
sorry?
was Dennis Copeland,
Oh,
yes.
shouldn't we just mention his name? That could be John Q. Public, right? Somebody walks in, retired annuitant. I didn't-
We, it is just how we do the minutes is by listing the job title. Commissioner O'Neill,
Approve.
okay.
All right. So a motion is approved of a minute. So anybody out there in the general public that wants to make any comments of it?
There are no public comments at this time. Chair
All right, then
Thomas.
we'll move on to item receive library and museum director's activity report.
Thank you, Chair Thomas, and welcome to our new commissioner, Commissioner Champion. Just giving you guys an update. We haven't met in a little while, so welcome everybody. Welcome to all of our commissioners again. Couple updates coming on here. We have our 4 Emil Norman endomosaic panels. Those were initially displayed at Casa Munras, 1956, originally created. And for folks that have seen the ones that are in San Francisco, the San Francisco Masons saw the panels that were here in Monterey and asked Emil Norman to make the panels that are over at the Mason. With that, they were moved when the city purchased them. I think around 1983, the city purchased those panels when the Casa Munras was being, the building was being updated. And they went to the conference center, the Monterey Conference Center. And they were in the Monterey Conference Center up until the Monterey Conference Center was remodeled. And they were removed from the conference center and moved into storage. And so we've been working with the Emil Norman Trust, basically, and Monterey History and Art Association, who is working as basically the fiscal agent. And they were awarded funding to restore some work from Emil Norman. And one of his premier works is the endomosaic that is part of our city collection. So what we're doing is going to be moving those panels out of storage. They're in garage. They're crated up in the garage. We'll be moving them into the Stanton Center for display over there. And I contacted David Wessel from ARG, Architectural Resources Group. David had worked directly with Emil Norman on restoring all of the panels in San Francisco. So he worked directly with him on how to restore and how to clean and everything like that. So he has that direct knowledge. So I felt like he was the best person to do the work on that. So we'll be working on cleaning up those panels and hanging those up hopefully in the next several months. So I'll be providing more information on there. And we'll be working, Brianna Schwerling, our artifact specialist. So if there was an article that came out on the MC Weekly and it may have stated in there that Brianna was going to do the work, but Brianna's not going to do the work. I've talked with her because she's not trained in how to deal with the endomosaic panels, and I want this to be done by a professional. So that's where we're going in there. We've started doing an inventory of our city art and city buildings. So as you can see, like right behind you, you'll see artwork all inside here, inside council chambers. And these are all accessioned in our city collection, or our city art collection. And what we're looking at is making sure that all of the artwork is correct, because what's happened is that since the pandemic, we haven't done an inventory since prior to the pandemic, and a number of city offices have changed. Some have closed, some have been open to other agencies. For example, the Monterey Chamber of Commerce now operates the building over there at over by El Estero. And there was artwork in there before. There was artwork on the Wave Street parking garage, and that building is no longer operated by that same department. So we want to make sure that all of the artwork is correct in all of our facilities, because as people move in and out of spaces, we want to make sure that everything is actually tagged, photographed. So that's going to be some time to do that. And then eventually what we'll do is go back to having it so that city departments can ask for us to display different artwork and put it out of the collection. So we'll be able to, and also have a way to eventually show that artwork to the public. So if we take photographs of it, because there's a great collection of artwork that's also in offices that people generally don't see. So that would be great to kind of see some of that stuff. Like, for example, city attorney's office has some really great art.
And I've talked to Brian when he has his different hat on, not the brown one, but the library hat, that personally, I think it would be nice to have more of the city-owned art displayed at the library.
Yeah.
I know we have, I forget what that's called, it shows those old families there, but it'd be nice to have art displayed. We have such a rich history of art in Monterey, and as you can tell, 60% of it is in storage. So it'd be nice to have some at the public library where a lot of people come.
Yeah, and I will say that's a lot of the stuff, the Shades of Monterey, that has not been really publicized yet, but you can actually find that Shades of Monterey collection. A big portion of it has actually been digitized on California Revealed on the Internet Archive. And so we went through a grant. So a lot of those, that's part of the plan going forward, because those have been there pretty static for a number of years. So we looked at a way to digitize that if we are going to change up the artwork that's there in that site. We were working, Francesca, Brianna, and I've been working with the Steinbeck Center on, they're doing a VR tour on the Ricketts Steinbeck era, specifically not on kind of the men's club, more on the Steinbeck and Ricketts era. And so we'll figure out what the next steps are there with the Steinbeck Center about what that VR tour will look like, or if we're going to do our own with them. We might record our own virtual reality kind of tour so people could actually look and explore the lab more inside of there. So with that, there was a lot of kind of cleaning up and little reorganizing a little bit in that space. Like in the front area, you'll see it's reorganized a little bit in there, but all the stuff is still in there.
So how will that work, Brian? So somebody attending the Steinbeck Center in Salinas would be able to also do a virtual tour of the Pacific Biological Lab?
We're figuring that out with their kind of their leadership, because I think they're going to have that as something that possibly people can view and look in there. We haven't seen the final product in there, but they were kind of videotaping and taking photos inside.
Yeah,
But it would be a way for people to actually see inside of the lab, possibly from there. And then we would work directly with those filmmakers as well to record for us as well. To
because
expand.
that would be nice once we get that down. I mean, possibly to put it in the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They have a nice exhibit there of the old canneries and all that, and that would be nice to include that there if possible.
Yeah, they have a lot of opportunities. I've actually reached out to them. I've not heard back. I reached out to the aquarium and said, hey, I'm Library and Museums Director, and we're in charge of the 3 worker houses and Ricketts Lab next door. Who can I connect with? Because you guys do tours and you start your tours talking about Ricketts, but how does this really connect to, how do you guys connect with us? So I'm waiting to hear back on that. We have an increase this fiscal year in $15,000 for cultural arts assistant. The hope with this is to help cultural arts and special events. And I know this commission has asked about restoring back like concerts and different events over there at Colton Hall. So this would be an on what we call a part-time seasonal or on-call staff member that would help with some events going on there. So we're looking forward to having some conversations with people right now about any candidates possibly for that. The Monterey Angels, for folks that may know, we have 3 different versions of the Monterey Angels: the 1956, the 1972, 73, and the 1999 Angels. Typically, the 1999 Angels are hung by California State Parks. They borrow ours, and then Monterey History and Art Association has one of ours over there in the Mayo Hazel Donald Library. But the 1956 versions are generally hung up on the streets. And right now, I'm having Signworks create 12 that will actually be made out of aluminum composite panels, and they're going to be hung up rather than the wood ones on the street, because a number of those wood ones have been really heavily damaged over time. They're being damaged by being hung up every year during the storm season. So having plywood sheets during a storm is not great to have, especially because they act like sails. So these will be full-size reproductions and hung up there on some of those. So those are in production right now, and I hope to have those coming soon. You guys will see them. And also we will have custom ornaments made for this holiday season for Monterey Angels. We'll have 2 different designs will be made. And this is the same company that makes the ornaments that we currently make for Colton Hall, Pacific Biological Labs. They also make them for the annual ones that if you see them at the post office for the White House, like annually, it's the same companies making those for us. So we'll have those. I'm going to start with 250 of each and sell those over for Christmas in the Adobes to really highlight Monterey. We found some 35 millimeter films that were actually transferred onto Betamax about, I'd say, 15 years ago or more. And one was called Roads to Romance. And it was from 1937. It's a Chevrolet advertisement for traveling to Monterey Peninsula. It's filmed in full in Technicolor, but we had it digitized. And I plan on putting it on the Monterey Public Library YouTube and finding other films that we could digitize. The other one, To the Voters of Monterey, is from 1925, but it looks, and these are also 35 millimeter film, which is interesting because 35 millimeter film would most likely have been shown in the theaters. So my thought is these were both advertisements that would have been played before movies over on the theaters. And To the Voters of Monterey is more of from the mayor at that time, and it's like a screen, and it's like why you should vote to fund improvements to Scott Street and the wharf and all this. And it's like a 2-minute, but it's no photos. It's just strictly text, but it still we'll be publishing those too, because I think those are both interesting for Monterey history. But To the Roads to Romance, so it's a really interesting photo because it has, videos of Custom House, the First Theater, City Hall, all these things from that time. So I really enjoyed just having that found and digitized. And I found that we did find another 8 millimeter film, which I'm hoping to get or planning to get digitized at some point. It's a film, probably from Monterey Police, of storm damage from the 1940s. So I'd love to see what that actually looks like. Yeah, so and Brianna has in here, she's working on some a box of items from Harlan and Louise Watkins. Those would be from Pacific Biological Labs. And Francesca worked with ARG, that's the consultant again, Architectural Resources Group, for the ADA accessibility study. And this is what we've talked about with commissioners before. So we haven't started that project yet. That has not started, but we've got into contract with them. And this will be to revise that 2019 study that talked about creating access through the front of the building. And this would be looking at it through the side and through the back for accessibility, the accessibility report, addendum on that. And yeah, going back to the working with National Study Mech Center, the interior of Pacific Biological Labs has been cleaned up, and the furniture and the model has been rearranged in there. So please stop by when we can, our second Saturday tours. And we have more volunteers coming back in to help with Pacific Biological Labs. And we are looking at the redoing the visitor brochure for Explore Monterey. That's the brochure that comes out. That is the one that was done in partnership with Preserve America, the grant that was done, I think, 2014. And that's the one that was that grant is no longer active, but it was initially done by California State Parks and City of Monterey, and it created the on-cell app, like the on-cell phone service. So we're going to be updating that because we have new content. We have the new app, new walking tours, and we're going to have them help work on that pretty soon so that we can start distributing those, because that will go to the different hotels, airports, just different sites that when you go in there, you have something about Monterey. But there's very few of us in the museums to actually work on graphic design for something like that. So that's why we're sourcing that piece out to get that updated. And Path of History. So we had earlier in the minutes, you'll see there was the mention about the Path of History project. And I need to call together a group of Commissioners Evans, Commissioner Thomas, and Commissioner Wachowski for the Path of History. I was waiting until I was gonna do a presentation for council that's got pushed back a bit versus other presentations that are going on through council. So I think I was gonna have us meet after presenting like our current draft to council, but I think we can continue to meet. So I'll call a meeting on the next week or two with you guys to see your availability, so we can talk about the next steps of that pretty expanded Path of History. And yeah, in the next page, on page 8, you'll just see some of our different statistics. We have things going on, Colton Hall Museum and Old Jail tours, our City of Monterey Museum. DLI Language Day happened again this year, and we've had a number of private and public tours, Pacific Biological Laboratories. And I will also mention that our fee schedule has increased as of July 1 as a reminder, that was on a prior commission meeting agenda. So we'll start charging slightly more for some of our tours to help kind of offset cost and increase revenue for the museums when we do a tour for private tours. Got any questions on that, on the presentation, or anything that I missed?
What is the first item under that STQRY?
That's the mobile app and website that has the Path of History cemetery tour.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I need to get funding at some point to redo all of the signs that say on sale outside of a lot of these historic buildings that have that on sale tour. And that was that one, because on sale was bought out and they are no longer active. So that was the one where we used to call the phone number, dial each site and play it. And now it's gone into an app, and I updated everything to have like an app. So I want to have it where you do a QR code and download the app or go to the website for the
Wow.
tour.
So we're going to have to change all those signs.
Yes.
It's a big job.
Yeah, so that's because right now you just have to find it. And that's the thing also, that's the one also where updating the print material also is really important, because the print material, California State Parks, Monterey State Historic Park, they distribute stuff regarding their guides and not ours anymore. It used to be that we distributed that together. We had one that was designed together. So this will be good to kind of redesign the print and the signage on there so that people, when they come by, they can see how they could download that information.
I have a question about the Norman installation. Is that
Yes.
going to be permanent at
Uh,
the Stanton Center or just a temporary
I-
arrangement?
We looked at up to 10 years right now. It's not permanent. And then I will say, Commissioner Kimsey, I believe in our collections policy that we don't allow permanent loans.
Mhm.
So we just have it on there up to a 10-year period, and then we basically can negotiate.
Mhm. So I know they rotate periodically, whatever they have in there. Just curious how long it would be.
I will say, one of the things that, talking with David Wessel, one of the things we talked about, because the endomosaic panel really relies on the light coming through and seeing so that you could see all of the detail, because these panels are a mix of different plastics elements, but also real items like real seashells, real ferns and trees and different pieces. So you want to see the light coming through.
Mhm.
And what happened is that it was, I think, front lighted when it was, I didn't live here at the time, but when it was in the conference center, there was a front light. But they know how to properly light it. So they would actually have to properly light it, with something that wouldn't be a detriment to the panels.
Mhm.
But because you can't just have it in there with like a traditional halogen light shining on it, because you just won't see all the color and the depth like you would typically. So
That's good to know.
Anyone else have any more questions? Anybody out there in the world out there?
There is not.
All right, then we'll move on to approve receipt of grant funding.
thank you. Yeah, so this is hopefully a quick item here. So what we need to do is get a recommendation to approve this. So I can bring it to council. So essentially, I applied for and received notification of a grant from the Thomas Dowd Senior and Nina M. Dowd Fund of the Community Foundation for Monterey County for Colton Hall and Old Jail Historic Interpretation for the amount of $50,000. So what this grant is going to be, basically $10,000 of that would be towards the cultural arts assistant as well. So that would allow us to have a staff to work on actually designing and updating some of our spaces in there. But we want to update the exhibit spaces inside and seating inside of Colton Hall. And there's a lot of class visits that happen here in Colton Hall in California, and people bring it by here. And the fourth grade standards for California schools has been updated over time. So we want to, they have what's called California, a Changing State, and that really focuses on a lot of early California history. So I think that's very active and hands-on learning. And so this person would also help kind of design what we would pass out or how we would kind of interact with the school children coming in to our different groups. So that would be hopefully to increase the number of children coming in to class visits coming in here. And then, I appreciate, like I was at the Colton Hall the other day and the Los Exploradores from California State Parks, Monterey State Historic Park, they were all there kind of learning and on site. And I want to see things that we have like that are hands-on for them to learn history. And that's one of the changes in there. But a couple of thoughts are in there is historic preservation of the original documents. So we do have those 3 documents that are in there. The building is not climate controlled. Those are not ideal for those documents. I think it's great to bring those documents out during days like Christmas and the Adobes, during convention reenactments, but not have them out there 365 days a year. So there's the 3 documents. We would make historic facsimiles because the ink actually starts to fade away over time. The ink starts to fade away due to UV light and just exposure to elements in here because we can't provide a climate controlled building in here or light controlled building. This is the sign-in sheet, the practice signature page, and there's the 1850 declaration that's in Spanish that was read when California became a state. And those would be placing the originals in storage, but like as I mentioned, bringing them out for specific events, updating the interpretive displays in Colton Hall and Old Jail. I know that some of the schoolhouse displays have been there since 1985 in some of the text. And the jail signage and the jail language on there has been since 1983. So getting some new interpretation and signs on both of those so that people that are local can see some new information on there too. And then looking at adding a digital display inside of Colton Hall on where we have the museum. There's the kind of the store and staff side of the building where the entrance is on the back. We do have a power outlet over there. So adding something that would allow people to cycle through some of those school photos, the history of California, the history of the different capitals and everything would be on there, of like having a digital board for people to go through and add that in there. And revised seating, those seats that we have in there are not ideal for public events because they are the original school benches and they've been restored in various capacities over time. And they're not good for us to hold events. So typically when we have events there in Colton Hall, we have to go to the storage garage and staff go to the storage garage and bring up stuff back and forth, which is a pain. So we're looking at changing things up there. And also when the jails, we do have 2 jail cells that are currently used for storage out of 6. So I would like to move at least one, make one more available. So I think having that, so it's not just storage, you can do more interpretation there in the jail cell. And as I mentioned here, add activities to meet our California 4th grade class visit standards. And yeah, so I would like to have a motion for approval of the funds so that we can go to council to appropriate these funds to the Museum Trust Fund. And ask any questions on there.
So for the seating part, is it going to be moved permanently then to Colton Hall so it is accessible rather than this running back and forth from the other location? That's been a problem with special events.
Yeah, so I think, and make sure, I don't know if your mic is on, Commissioner Kimsey too. One thing we looked at, and I know Francesca was looking at too, is like expandable seating. Some of these benches that you can expand out where you have a bench and then you add pieces and they're kind of like an expandable table. Or if we have other chairs that could be in there too. Because I would love to keep as much as possible there on site or have it somewhere closer, because bringing from the Tyler Street garage and the storage is like, we have to navigate getting the right vehicle to bring it over. And there's a lot of logistics which are really difficult for that. So hopefully if we had it in there, it would be ideal. And one other piece I should add on there too is possibly we have some art panels for art in Colton Hall. So I might do something else also for that to be art, maybe some rotating art, because we are working with, we'll be working with Monterey County Historical Society for the Pat Hathaway collection of Monterey to display some artwork, hopefully in the next month from his collection. Thank you for the question.
So this is something we need to approve,
We need to approve so that we can go to council, so the council will accept donation of the grant. And then we can put the funding in the museum trust fund so that I can start. spending them.
I recommend approval. And also I just want to extend a lot of thanks to Brian for getting this grant.
Yeah.
It's
I agree.
a big step forward.
Yeah, yay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So
Second,
I didn't
Oh,
hear you say.
I knew Bob was going to be
Okay.
excited about this one.
All right, so for the roll
We
call,
have a motion to approve it and there's a second.
yes, and so roll
So
call.
all want you to say aye.
No,
Aye.
Tom.
Motion is
Commissioner
approved, the
Thomas.
funding is. approved.
Alrighty.
We still need to do,
I'm sorry.
we need to do the verbal roll call because
you're
Commissioner
right.
Evans is
Thank you.
away.
That's
Yes.
why I'm a little historian and not.
No. You're doing fabulous. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Champion, for approval of this. Yes, thank you. And Commissioner Evans,
I approve.
Commissioner Kimsey,
approve.
Commissioner O'Neill, Commissioner Sovereign,
Approved.
and Commissioner Wotowski,
Approve.
and then Chair Thomas.
I approve.
Thank you.
And so we move on to the final number 4 here, and it's confirming annual appointments for chair and vice chair. So as they say, all good things must come to an end, right? So it's my turn, time to turn over the gavel to, and I assume Francesca, is this something that you do, or I just say, I could? I'm not sure. But,
Commissioner Southern is willing to accept.
yeah, do you accept,
Happily accept that I would love to see you continue in this job because you've done a great job.
yeah, I appreciate that. And then, Ms. Kinsey, you're going to, vice chair, you approve that?
I accept that.
All right. So the coup has happened and I've been kicked out. Thank you. So are there information reports and staff comments? Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, there's some filming outside. I can't release what it's all for publicly at this time, but it'll be for a show that's possibly in 4 to 6 months. It'll be out there. So that's what's all the activity going on right now. Other than that, we do have our end of the library summer reading happening, and we just had some. I had some privacy booths, some study booths added into the library too that were entirely, I had those grant funded as well. They were entirely funded by that. So take a look at those if you can. That was just to help expand out to have space for people looking for a private study space for a couple hours, a Zoom up, something like that, which was, we get a lot of requests for different uses in there. And then also that the library, we're looking at MC Gives will be coming in the next couple of months. So keep your eyes out for that. We won't release all the information on that till we're actually chosen and going forward. But yeah, that's it. And I appreciate Tim, our chair, Chair Thomas. I look forward to still having coffee with you when we can get time to get together for coffee, and still working with you on the panels and all of our other kind of little projects that we've got going on. And then also just that NCIP is not finalized, as far as I've seen, the projects from the list, but I do recall that the worker houses on Bruce Harris Way were approved from when I saw that. So I will update the commission. I'll keep on track with what's going on with NCIP as we have other projects that have been approved in there. So to let everybody know what any kind of next steps are.
So commissioner comments? John, Bill?
The only one I would have, Brian, can you confirm? I think Hans said the Lower Presidio is going to be on next Tuesday's agenda.
I have not seen the agenda item. I haven't seen the report yet. I thought it was but I hadn't talked directly with Hans. I thought it was going to be 8/20, possibly the 20th.
Oh, okay.
Not Tuesday the 6th, possibly the 20th. And I can connect with you as soon as I
Yeah,
hear
if you
back.
don't
from-
mind, if you would confirm that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be on vacation for a while and I want to make sure somebody from Old Monterey Foundation goes.
Yeah,
And
perfect.
if you're interested in the Presidio Museum, I think it would be nice if the entire commission got a copy of the staff report, because it does affect the museum and under what conditions will the city retain the Lower Presidio?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Looking forward to next year, it seems to me we need to focus on some particular piece of our action, and the Presidio Museum, it seems to me, ought to be the first priority, that we're in danger of losing it. We need to be making some progress.
Comment?
Yes, welcome, Glodine. Glad to have you. And I'm delighted to hear that the seating is being addressed, because that certainly has interfered with our special events. And I hope we can do the music and such in the future. I think it was really wonderful for the community to come there and enjoy this beautiful building. Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Comment?
I have nothing to add at the moment.
Yeah, Mr. Evans, does that have a comment?
Oh, yes, I want to thank Francesca for getting me hooked up so I could attend.
I hope that I'll be more mobile by the time we have the next meeting.
Very good. And then my comment is I like to wish Mr. Evans a speedy recovery. And I welcome Ms. Champion to our esteemed panel. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I think with that, we can call the meeting to close.
Cool.
Wow, it's the time.
Thank you all.